Hello, welcome to Salt and Light Canning. I'm Jessica and this is my kitchen. I'm happy that you're here. Today I'm canning beans, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about reusable canning lids. Yes, I use reusable canning lids. These ones are by Tattler and I use them and I like them. I don't use them on things that I will be giving away. So if I anticipate that I'm going to be giving something away, I don't use a reusable lid. Just because they're an investment, they're a little bit expensive, and compared to just disposable canning lids, but they're worth it. You can use the same reusable lid and the same reusable gasket up to 10 times. The lids you can use forever, but you can use a gasket up to 10 times. That's 10 seasons of canning. So over the course of 10 years, yes, I might have paid $1 a piece for these lids, but in the long run, I'm going to save tons of money being able to reuse them again and again and again. But I don't use them if I anticipate that I'm going to be giving something away. Also, they take a little bit of prep work. You can't just like take them out and slap them on a jar and everything's all good. I keep track of how many times they're used. So I take a Sharpie and I make a little mark on my gasket every time I use it. I'll just turn it back towards the lid. And I put it on my lid and I set it in a bowl, and I have some boiling water here, and I'm going to pour those over my lids. Now this is to help get our gaskets softened and ready for canning. So those are just going to sit there while I fill my jars. In the description of this video, you'll find a link for the Tattler lids that I use. Highly recommend them. I buy them individually. I've bought them by the case. I do use them. I love them. So there's a link in the description for these lids. Also, something new. There's a link in the description to my Amazon storefront. And in that link, you will find things that I use, things that I love. I won't put anything in that link that I don't use and I don't recommend. So check it out. Check out the description below. But anyways, let's get started canning. So today I am canning garbanzo beans. And no, this is not the approved method. And please do your research and make sure that what you're doing is safe and that you feel comfortable and that you're confident in the product for your family. For practicing with canning with reusable lids, I recommend doing something that doesn't cost a lot of money. So you might not want to do, 20 pounds of beef with reusable lids if you've never used them before. So I recommend doing something like beans, or even just canning jars of water to practice. So here we go. I'm doing garbanzo beans. I have washed my beans. These are just dried beans. I didn't soak them. I didn't anything to them. And I'm going to use about half a cup per pint jar. You really don't want to use more than half a cup of beans because it'll overfill your jar and you'll have issues. And you might ask, why would you can dry beans? You can just soak them and use them the next day and all that stuff. Well, I have found that I don't tend to use the dry beans in my food storage if I don't can them. So I can them and then I use them and our family gets used to eating them. It's all good things. What kinds of beans do you like to store? And what kinds of beans do you like to can? And what are your favorite recipes? leave a comment. I love to hear from my subscribers. I really appreciate all of you. Makes me smile when I see that you've commented on a video. You make my day. So in my beans, I'm using half a teaspoon of canning salt. No, you don't have to use any kind of salt. It's just what I like to do. You can also use kosher salt. I bought kosher salt for canning this year because I couldn't believe the price of canning salt and I was not going to pay that. Either one is fine. You just want something that doesn't have a lot of extra minerals because it can cause clouding. I'm going to fill my jar with filtered water up to 1 inch of headspace. Now I'm pressure canning, so it's important that we follow and make sure we have that 1 inch of headspace. Now I'm going to debubble. And it's probably not strictly necessary, but since I always do, I'm going to wipe the rim of my jar with some vinegar. And here's where you need to plan ahead, because you don't want to stick your fingers in that boiling water. Grab a lid with your tongs and put it on the jar. And I hope you can see what I'm doing. So with Tattler lids and with other reusable lids, you want to be very careful not to over tighten. So we're going to put our ring on very carefully here. And we're going to turn until the jar is able to turn. So if the jar turns with your fingertips, that's as tight as you need to go. Because with that thicker gasket, that will allow for, in the canning process, for it to be able to vent. Because if it doesn't vent, then it won't seal. And sometimes, okay, I'm going to share a funny experience with you. When I didn't know what I was doing, I over tightened and I went to fingertip tight. And it wasn't loose like this, right? And I had a lid just blow completely off my jar in the canner. There was this big bang and I didn't know what had happened. Well, when I was done, I had the lid just blow completely off the jar in the canner. So you want to be careful and make sure that when you're tightening on reusable lids, that once the jar is able to turn, that's as tight as you go. So there we go. And on to my next jar. All right, my canners are full and I have 18 jars in each and they look pretty. Everything looks better in a jar, just if you were wondering. Everything looks better in a jar. And the water in my canner is cold because the water in my jars are cold. And I don't want to shock anything or take a chance on my jars breaking. I was very careful about how tight I tightened down on my Tattler lids because I want the biggest chance for success that I can have. I want everything to seal. So just be careful. And if it is your first time using Tattler lids, can something like beans or even just jars of water so you can practice, because you can reuse them again and again. And like for my pantry, since I'm on a 3-year rotation of food, some of my lids out there will last 30 years, because 10 times 3, 30 years of canning. And I would have spent lots and lots of money on disposable lids for the things that I don't anticipate giving away. I don't anticipate giving away plain garbanzo beans. But if I do, I am canning some with just the regular button top lids also. just in case. So, all right, I'm gonna put the lids on and get these started. We're gonna turn them on. We're gonna bring these up to temperature and we're gonna let it vent for 10 minutes. And then we'll put our weights on and bring it up to 15 pounds of pressure for my altitude. Check your altitude, it might be different for you. So 15 pounds of pressure, and then we're going to let them process at 15 pounds of pressure for 75 minutes, because these are beans and it's 75 minutes. And we'll be back when I'm taking them out of the canner. And pay attention, because the lids are different taking them out of the canner too. So we'll see you, well, it'll be like a second for you. I'll see you after these are done and they've come off of pressure. So our timer went off and we let everything come down from pressure slowly. Took the lids off and everything just happened naturally and slowly. So now we're gonna take them out. Now take extra care to make sure that you're grabbing on the glass and not on the ring. And everything is just bubbling and doing bubbling canner things. Now with the Tattler lids, once you take them out, you have to tighten them down. So I take them out and then I have a towel and I just tighten them down. So with all the other lids you use, you wouldn't want to touch them and you wouldn't want to mess with them. But with the Tattler lids, you have to tighten them down. And just be careful. Now, if anything is like squealing or spitting, or you see like visible liquid coming out or whatever, don't touch it. I wouldn't even take it out of the canner. I would just let it be, because I wouldn't want to get myself hurt. So just be careful. Anyway, I'm going to finish taking these out, but I encourage you, check out the link below. Maybe buy yourself some reusable lids. It's a great option to have, especially since, I mean, a couple years ago, there were no canning lids to be had at all. And if I didn't have reusable lids, it would have cut my canning short. So give it a try. Can something that's not very expensive while you practice. And just don't be afraid to try. Be so blessed. Know that you're loved. And be a blessing to someone else. We'll see you in the next video.